Good morning, students. This is Dr. Young. I hope you are all well and safe, progressing as students here at Victor Valley College this fall 2021 semester in your courses, your academic courses. I'm doing this video to just touch bases with those of you that are actively participating in the course. I've gotten a couple of emails regarding students being unable to, or shall I say, not completing some of the assignments that were due as of yesterday. And so I wanted to make formally the importance of managing your time, the importance of viewing this academic journey as something that you want to start and complete successfully. And I'm sure that most of you that are in the class, if not all of you, that is your intent, to do the best you can in this course, to learn as much as you can. And as you mentioned in your discussion boards in the first week, either grow and or develop your understanding and awareness of accounting as it applies to your life. So in that context, I was looking at the quizzes because there was quite a few emails that were sent. And so there's a quiz here that I have the pointer on, end of the chapter quiz that was due by yesterday, 11:59. And at that time, 8 students had not started the quiz. 21 students had submitted the quiz on time, and 15 students were in progress. So if I do some quick math, 36, 44. So 23 out of the 44 students either did not complete or partially completed the quiz for last week. So I want to view this challenge as an opportunity. Please, as you watch this video, keep in mind that as your professor on this side of the internet, I want to support you. I want to develop a curriculum, a pedagogical setup where you can learn. But because you're in an academic program or in a course, there are some rules, there are some regulations, there are some policies. So one of the policies is in any class is that there's a time completion identified, time and a date. And so moving forward, it's vital that if you did not complete the quiz last week, that you make sure that you, as a student, plan your week out with the intent to get your quiz done, not on the day that it's due, but the day before it's due. And that will set you up for better success moving forward. I also had a couple of questions regarding the cash flow statement from last week's homework. And I like the cash flow statement, and I don't usually emphasize it that much because to me it seems pretty self-explanatory, but yet when you're reading narratives, it's not as explanatory, right? Meaning that the words may not make a connection as to whether or not the cash is being used for investing purposes, financing purposes, or operating purposes. So I included the cash flow statement problem for you to review. Christy, I believe it is, in this course, sent me an email and she was somewhat conflicted. Thank you, Christy, for reaching out. And so you'll notice that the cash flow statement is basically a representation of whatever the amount is in the cash account. That's a reconciliation of that. What I mean by reconciliation, it identifies or details everything that has occurred in the cash account. So as you move forward, and in this chapter 2, we start to use T accounts, it's going to be paramount that you identify the uses of cash and then when it's a non-use of cash. I digress a bit. But you'll notice this cash flow statement has 3 areas. So you have operating activities at the very top, right here. Then you have your net operating activities, meaning anytime you see net, this basically says that there's been some additions, subtractions, and in this case, many subtractions, right? You paid cash to employees, you paid for rent, or in this problem, not you. The business owner paid for telephone expense, and the business owner paid for miscellaneous expenses. So that rendered a negative $7,110. Once again, as we look at this, this is just a end of the month summary, right, of how the company used its cash. Make that decision is the only decision that you want to make, or moreover, the vantage point of this is how was the cash used. This does give business managers the ability to go back and say, okay, let's compare the amount of money that we made or used for operating activities. And keep in mind, all of these items here are technically expenses. So as you look at the spreadsheet, everything that the company paid money for is going to be delineated or specified or identified with an expense name. This first one would be employee or wage expense. The second one is rent expense. The third one is going to be telephone expense. And then this last one is miscellaneous expense, right? So in your mind, you may want to then identify, okay, operating activities are all those things or situations or when I am paying for an expense or the business owner is paying for a particular expense. So the net cash used by the operating activities, again, operating. Any firm that exists is going to operate first and foremost to make money, revenue, and to pay for its expenses. So then cash flow from investing activities, in this case, there was none. And then cash paid for equipment was $18,170. So because the firm did not invest any money in particular, in this case, there's a negative value, $18,170. And so you may say, oh, concern, I get it, you're right. This company's in the hole by about $25,000. But we don't view it that way. We just view it as if you looked at your checking account, you know at the beginning of the month you make $2,000, and if you spend $1,500, then you have $500 left over. So that's all we're doing here, but this is a cash flow statement. In particular, you might call this you're balancing your checkbook. Right? Then the next section, we're including now cash investment from shareholders, $38,170. And then there's dividends that are paid to those shareholders. All of these items are related to investing activities. And then last, we have our net cash provided by financing activities. So net 38,000 minus 2,000 and some change is 35,990. So it's subtotal there. You'll see this dark line here. Anytime you see a dark line, one line, that means there's a subtotal. If you see 2 lines, that means that's the total. So 7, 18 is 25 minus, or should I say 35 minus these 2 values, gives you a net cash increase of 10,710. And anytime you do a cash flow statement, you're doing it for the end of the period. You'll see here it says December 31st. And this should match, as I mentioned, I started this discussion regarding or about the T account. This should match the same amount that you will see in your T account in this chapter, or moreover in your ledger. The only other thing I wanted to comment on was continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to challenge yourself, continue to work through the frustrations of online learning, and hopefully my graphics energize you a bit to say, hey, this process is one that is going to grow you if you allow it to. But you have to make decisions on what you're going to give up to get this education that's so important to your overall sustainability, financial well-being, and quality of life. Lastly, this week there's a number of things, and you'll notice here too, I will go back and in this week I will bring in the objectives for chapter 2. As I did here, these are some fundamental objectives of the chapter. So I will add that in today. And then we have a couple of things that you're going to do. You're going to review the agenda, and that's typically pretty static. But always take a look at that because there may be something that I've changed. And then you're going to go into, notice now this says a 0 here. This is your reading. Now keep in mind, some of you may have issues where you'll try to click this link and you won't be able to go into the assignment depending upon your internet browser or your bandwidth at home. So all of these assignments here, with the exception of the notes and the PowerPoint, these are all items that are within the McGraw-Hill Connect. And I've added this document here for you just as a set-aside template so that you can actually see the types of accounts now that we are quantifying. Again, you learned in the first chapter that assets must always equal liabilities plus owner's equity. So assets, 100 levels, because they're the first set. Liabilities, 200s. Equity, 300. Revenue, 400. Expenses, 500. And or 6, 7, 8, 9. And so these values that you see here, 101, 112, 126, those are called chart of account numbers. Okay? Now, keep in mind that as you're doing your homework this week, you should create a T account for every single problem that you do so that you can show the debits and the credits, meaning increases or decreases, as they apply. Okay. Be well, stay safe, and again, the opportunity, this challenge now is an opportunity for growth. Okay, have a great week.